Hey guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. My nickname is iFacepalm, and in this episode we're going to take a closer look at something very special. And it is the Tier 8 mission reward tank, the British Tier 8 Chimera medium tank, which features a very interesting merge between a hard-hitting tank destroyer and a medium tank. And during this tank review we'll be looking into whether if it's worth the grind, how its tank statistics looks. I will compare its stats against several other Tier 8 tanks, which most features a very hard-hitting gun, and this will be followed up with a detailed armor profile rundown with focus on its weak spots and strengths, and afterwards I will take you guys alongside a couple of very recent battles which hopefully will give you guys a good idea of this British medium tank in action. And finally I will finish up with a quick sum up and my rating of this tank. Okay guys, let's get started. Okay, so what is the Chimera all about, and is it worth the investment in time, credits and focused work and effort that is needed to acquire this particular tank? Well, when I originally started my grind for the very first reward tank of the second front, the Excalibur, then I quickly realized that my garage definitely needed a great expansion, and this definitely did not get any smaller when I embarked on the grand journey to pick up the Chimera. This journey, yes, it was on and off. And sometimes these RNG missions got extremely frustrating and forcing me to play in ways I usually would never do. This meant I very often did take a break from these missions and would often put them on hold for anywhere between 3 to 6 months before trying a few of them again. So in total I would probably guess that this on and off journey took me a couple of years, and you can imagine that at that time my expectations and hope that this tank is any good were through the roof. But such high expectations are usually a recipe for disappointment, and this in the end made me wonder regarding that maybe no matter how good this tank actually is, I would still end up being disappointed, because the Chimera symbolizes not only the tank but something extremely unique and special that a regular tech tree tank would never be able to accomplish, and that is of course the grind, the planning, the focus, and what this tank has, it has a badge of recognition on it. So in that way it really showcases a good percentage chance that the person behind the wheel of a Chimera maybe knows what they're doing. So yes, in the end, as I was getting closer and closer to complete my last mission to pick up the Chimera, then the fear grew of me not liking it. Yes, it sounds crazy, I know, but honestly, I've never been this worried of not liking the Chimera when I took it out for the very first battle. So what was it guys? Was it disappointment or epic? Well, let's take a look guys by starting out by doing a quick stats rundown with my current crew and tank setup. So the crew I'm using in my Chimera is the crew for my Centurion AX, and in general there's nothing really out of the ordinary, but of course keep in mind that yes, the repair skills are missing on both the commander and the driver and will be the next skills I will be focusing on. But definitely to start out with, rods and arms, getting the gun handling and camouflage in control, alongside of course a bit of view range. For the commander I have chosen to go with the sound detection due to its particular playstyle, which can make it very often a target for artillery. But then again, which tanks doesn't? For the equipment, as this tank grind was quite extreme, and when I finally got it, then it had to have the very best. So of course I run it with two different setups. For the first setup I'm using Bond vent system, bounty rotation mechanism, and then I'm using a Bond vertical stabilizer. This particular setup is more for the up close and personal, and for my secondary setup I go more for the spotter role, where I both take advantage of having that turbocharger alongside commander's vision system. And for the ammunition I have chosen to go with 12 AP shells, which each are capable of dealing, yes, 440 alpha damage for a medium tank. It is nuts. Yes, I know there are several other tanks in the game that of course deal 440 or even more, but it is just so much different when you put it on something that is mobile, because yes, the Defender is 440, but it's a completely different playstyle. And not only that, as we're going to look at of course its gun depression and the way the gun feels, it just fits this tank beautifully. But first thing first, so 440 alpha damage, awesome. Then we're going to look at the average penetration 218, which is actually not bad for the standard round, and shell velocity is a kind of mediocre, so nothing really out of the ordinary. But one thing definitely that is worth checking out is the very cheap shell price of 755 for 440 alpha damage. That is quite epic. Nevertheless guys, as you can see, the shells that I use the most are the APCR, not surprisingly, and for this we received that extra penetration that now reaches 250 152. Yes, I wish from time to time it would be slightly higher. Nevertheless, on a medium tank, it is doable. And not only that, we get a nice shield velocity increase with additional 150 meters per second. And last, this tank comes with high explosives that each are capable of dealing an alpha damage of up to 530 at a shield velocity of 732. And yes, I never use these. And for the consumables, small repair kit, small first aid kit, and we finish up with some pudding and tea for those extra 10% skill. And when looking at the field mod, so let's take a look. And here I've chosen to go for the light alloy mounting points, the suspension arm tuning, as I fire most of my shots not fully aimed. And for the third one, I go with the anti-reflective headlights coating for that increased 3% in concealment. And last thing to notice is the second slot category, focus, and here I have chosen to go for the scouting. So we had an average damage of 440, which always seems to kind of make me laugh whenever I fire with this gun. It just feels nuts on a medium tank. It's funny how a gun that is just fitted on something a bit more mobile can feel so much different than other tanks that deals approximately the same alpha damage. Then we had an average penetration of 218, a rate of fire for 4.47, which translates to a reload of 13.43. Yes, we receive a few small bonuses, and you can of course fit a gun rammer on it if you want that extra increase. But because this tank has quite a low damage per minute, I do not see the gigantic benefit personally for me of increasing that low damage per minute by 10%. In comparison to this tank would have an epic damage per minute, then I would definitely go for a gun ram, if it had of course. And taking a look at the gun traverse, we had a 35.89 degrees, so the gun traverse is not super fast. But the thing is that the gun handling isn't really that supreme either, which we will see in the tank comparison. But because the gun traverse isn't faster than this, it will not bloom too much. It's kinda ironic how good it works together. If this gun traverse, let's say it was 50 or 60 degrees, then the gun bloom will be covering the whole map. But because it isn't, it is actually quite manageable. And furthermore guys, check this, gun depression minus 10 degrees. Yeah, this is some of the magic the Chimera has, because 440 alpha damage together with minus 10 degrees of gun depression, it is amazing what you can do on some of the ridge lines with this particular tank. And for the aiming time guys, 2.17 seconds alongside a gun dispersion of 0.32, which is very decent. And next we have the damage per minute of 1966, so yes, it's really nothing out of the ordinary, because this particular damage per minute, yes, that is with food, that is with Prototyp arms, and it is bond vents. Next, this tank has a quite nice HP pool of 1400 alongside 114mm of hull armor, which looks quite angled, but of course 114mm, it will still be a bit challenging to bounce some of these shots, but of course we will see that in details in the armor profile rundown. But then we have a 203mm of turret armor, which on paper is actually very decent, but the angle here definitely not. So can you actually bounce something? And when we go further down here guys, we can see that the horsepower per ton is 16.31, which for a medium tank is relatively sluggish. And this also means that with my second setup, there we go, it will go up to 17.98 due to those extra horsepower provided by our turbocharger. And this also provides that extra boost to our top speed and reverse speed. Yes, we are using that field mods to go those -2, and it doesn't really hurt it that much when I also have a turbocharger fitted. It is quite nice to have a turbocharger on it, but keep in mind guys, it all depends on the map. For the traverse speed, for when the rotation mechanism is fitted, we receive a decent traverse speed of 46.65 degrees, alongside camo values of 3281 when stationary and 2604 when moving. So definitely decent figures. And to finish up guys, we have a view range of 445 meters, which is exactly spot on what we want to reach. And of course keep in mind guys that the 89% recon skill here is not fully trained, so it'll be slightly better. Okay guys, let's continue by taking a look at the tank comparison, which is a bit special for this particular tank review, as I have selected quite a lot of different tanks. But let's take a look. Okay guys, so here we have the tank comparison, where we're going to compare the Chimera against the 122 TM, the Object 274A, the M4A1 Revalorise. And not only that, I have chosen to include 3 heavy tanks, which are the Defender, the 50 TP Prototyp, and the Charlemagne. And to finish it up, I have chosen to include the T-103 tank destroyer. And this is simply due to that when we look at the damage of 440, it is quite rare. Well, it is quite rare for a medium tank tank, because there's actually only one medium tank in game at this current stage which is capable of dealing that gigantic punch. Yes, the 122 TM or the M4A1 Revalorise are close, but they are not there. What is there is our 3 heavy tanks, which each are capable of delivering those 440 alpha damage, alongside the special heavy tank destroyer hybrid of the T-103. But also the other reason for why I wanted to include the heavy tanks is that the Chimera's 440 alpha damage, in comparison to, for example, a Defender's 440 alpha damage, it just feels different. Because whenever I play with my Defender and I deal 440 alpha damage, it feels, yeah, it's nice, I gave the enemy a punch, and they will definitely take notice. But whenever I manage to hit an enemy with my Chimera, it just feels that I just slapped the enemy, because I can deal the damage in so many different ways. I'll get so much more opportunities. And one of the reasons, of course, is that gun depression, but also the feeling of the gun and overall tank experience. So yes, the alpha damage is the exact same, but it just feels like night and day. And it is so much more pleasant to deal 440 alpha damage with something that classifies itself as a medium tank. It's just crazy. But nevertheless, guys, let's start off by taking a look at the DPM. So as we saw in the garage, 1703 base DPM is really not the craziest. And here, of course, we would like to have something around it, preferably around the 2000 scale. And we can directly see here that even the Defender with its 1760 base DPM is actually better than our Chimera. So yeah, DPM wise, definitely nothing special here. And that high alpha damage, especially for T8, is usually punished by having that poor DPM. Just quick note, guys, you might be wondering, why do I have a 274A here? There's a few points I want to make regarding the gun handling for a few of these tanks. And when we continue here looking at the shell velocity, then the 950, again, it's okay, would be nice to be a bit extra. And this, again, we see here that it's really at the lower scale. But for this particular tank's playstyle 950, it will require from time a bit of extra RNG or a bit of extra skill or pre-aiming to hit those shots, especially if you're firing 400 or 500 meters away. The top spot, of course, there can be only one, and that's of course our M4A1 Revalorise with 1460 meters per second, which is super enjoyable, especially when you can punch the enemy with 390 alpha damage on a standard round. Yes, the standard round is only 200mm penetration, but then again, 1460 meters per second shell velocity on a medium tank? Yeah, when it works, amazing. And one little thing to notice here, guys, check the Charlemagne standard shell velocity of 597. Let's see how all of this looks when we switch to the premium rounds. And there we go. And do notice that the Chimera, the Object 274A, and Defender and Prototyp all uses APCR rounds as premium. The 122 TM and M4A1 Rev uses heat rounds, and the Charlemagne and T-103 uses both AP as standard and AP as premium round. So right off the bat, yes, we definitely see a boost of penetration for the Chimera to 252, but we also very quickly see that there's nothing special, where several tanks like the 122 TM, the Object 274A, and even the T-103 has superior penetration in comparison. So yeah, 252, it's okay, but it is nothing groundbreaking. And this is similar when we take a look at the shell velocity, 1100 meters per second, it's okay. But again, we see here quickly that some of these tanks simply are capable of delivering a much more pleasant shell velocity experience, where even the Defender with its 1250 is just superior. Okay, and let's take a look at the gun handling. And this is here where we will be starting to see some of the similarities and why I have selected to compare it against the Object 274A. Because if you guys remember, in my Object 274A tank review, one of the things that seriously got extremely challenging was to trying to get that gun handling under control, which really proved to be one of the most challenging tank experiences, because there is probably no other tank I've tried to make work as much as the Object 274A. Because to start out, guys, for the aiming time 2.5 seconds, yeah, the difference here is not really the groundbreaking. Of course, the heavy tanks must have that extra aim time, so there's no surprises here. And looking at the gun dispersion, yes, for the mediums, 0.36 for 440 alpha damage, that is actually quite decent. Because when we look at other tanks with similar gigantic punch, and especially for some of the heavy tanks, yes, then the values are skyrocketing. Yes, the T-103 as a tank destroyer, 0.36 is actually not bad at all. And with the 122 TM, which also is capable of dealing that beautiful 400 alpha damage punch, 0.33 definitely decent. But here's the problem, the hidden stats. Because when looking at the gun handling when moving or when traversing your tank of 0.2, then you will notice that the Chimera has the exact same values as the 122 TM, and not only that, as the Object 274A. And the thing is that what I ended up feeling about the 122 TM's gun handling was that it was okay, but it takes ages. But the Object 274A, that part doesn't give you any room whatsoever to properly fire with this gun at medium range, especially long range, without being fully aimed, unless your expectation is only to hit 1 out of 3 shots on a good day. So is it the same for the Chimera? Well, not as much, because the big difference here is both in the dispersion value, but also in the turret traverse. 0.12 and 0.15 might not sound that is a lot of difference, but it is staggering how much it matters. Because for just quick comparison between the Chimera and the 122 TM, the 122 TM has that better 0.03 dispersion when fully aimed, but it has 0.03 worse turret traverse. And this means that I personally would any day go for the Chimera setup of having that lower turret traverse and then receiving that penalty in the dispersion. The king, of course, in this comparison is of course the Charlemagne, but keep in mind that the best gun dispersion when fully aimed is 0.44. But nevertheless, it is quite decent turret traverse of 0.08. Similar to one of my favorite tanks when we are talking about gun handling, the CS52 list, which has an identical turret traverse. So the 0.08 for a heavy tank's gun handling is actually not bad, if not looking at the gun dispersion or the aim time. So all in all, these figures doesn't look shocking, they don't look amazing, because even the M4A1 Revalorise with 390 alpha damage has superior gun handling in comparison. But where the M4A1 Revalorise is a true glass cannon, as driving in a tier 5 Sherman hull is probably one of the best definition of having a squishy tank in the game. So if the Chimera had a normal alpha damage, let's say 320, and I would be given these kind of gun handling figures, then this tank would not be special whatsoever for me. But luckily is that gun depression of 10 degrees. Yes, the gun depression is similar to the M4A1 Revalorise, but keep in mind it really can't bounce shots. Honestly, I can't even remember last time I bounced a shot, but the Chimera can actually do so. Not reliably, but it's not unheard of. Okay, let's continue with the mobility, and here we got the forward speed of 50 an hour, which is beautiful. It's only the Object 274A which takes the crown, but of course keep in mind guys, this is only a 320 alpha damage tank. So if we look at the big league here regarding the big gun, yeah, 50 an hour is definitely some of the very best. And this again we see in the beautiful reverse speed of 20 an hour, which the Chimera definitely takes a beautiful first spot in. But for the power to weight ratio, around 16 horsepower per ton, which is quite a common sight all across, and looking at the terrain resistances of 1 and 110, 19. So if you already own a M4A1 Rev, then you will get approximately the exact same speed from a Chimera like you would do from the Rev. Here you will be able to see guys, I've been testing out both the Chimera and the Rev to see is there actually any noticeable difference. And you will see that at the very end, when the tanks go past in 40 an hour, which the Rev of course can't do, then yes, the Chimera start to wave goodbye. But until they reach the 40 an hour, they both feature the exact same acceleration, at least on hard, medium. And this is also why a turbocharger can be a valid option for especially the M4A1 Rev, but also for the Chimera. And when looking at the turret traverse, 26 degrees, yeah, we are talking about heavy tank territory, where the Defender with 24 degrees is nearly just as sluggish as our Chimera. But the ironic part is, that's the part that becomes a benefit for the Chimera. And this is what I mean by, because guys, I love a fast turret traverse. So usually whenever I'm giving a very sluggish tank, or tank that at least has a sluggish turret traverse, I really despise that part. But because it is so slow and therefore limits the maximum gun bloom that you can get on your gun when you traverse your turret, there seems to become an advantage in regarding of landing those snapshots. So yeah, rotation mechanism, definitely I can recommend to increase this figure, but of course even with everything you increase it with, you will still be limited quite low base figure. And this is of course very similar when we look at the tank traverse at 30 degrees. Okay guys, let's quickly go to the armor and health, and here we got the whole armor of 114mm together with the turret armor 203. Yeah, this comparison here doesn't really say us a lot, besides the 203mm looks actually quite good if it's angled well, but yeah, this turret is not angled very well. You will see this in the armor profile right now. But check this stats here guys, health 1400 for a medium tank. For a medium tank that's amazing, but hey, wait a second, 122 TM has the same. Even our Sherman hull, yes, our tier 5 Sherman hull has 1400 HP. Yeah, it's kind of strange. The only thing that makes sense here is that our tank destroyer only have 1250. But then again, why does our Object 274A only have 1200 then? Let's not get too many gray hairs of this, and let's take a look at very last figures. And here we got the camo of 13.39 together with camo while moving of 10. So the values here are not bad, and they are what we should be expected from a medium tank. Not supreme, but definitely better than its heavy tank's counterparts, which always are stuck with very similar figure. And to finish it up, we had the view range 380, which is definitely an acceptable number and makes it possible for not using coated optics, but to use both vents and use food to achieve that approximate view range of 445 meters. Okay guys, let's take a quick look at the armor profile rundown. Okay guys, so here we have the armor profile rundown of the Chimera, and for this we're going to use the 218mm AP round. And let's see how it looks in the live view. Yeah, so definitely nothing really out of the ordinary. Of course, what is super noticeable is this very well angled middle stripe here, where its sides are quite extreme, delivering a nearly 400mm of effective armor, but in the very front an impacted armor 50mm, which are angled at just above those 70 degrees. So in general, when you face one of these tanks, it's really just about hit it anywhere, as long as you don't hit them in very edges of either the hull or of course the turret. The turret itself has a cupola, but kind of pointless of shooting at it, since you can just aim anywhere else. For the turret itself, you have around 20 to 30% chance of bouncing a shot with your turret, so nothing really crazy. And for the gun mantle itself, yes, you can actually be super lucky, especially when going hull down, to actually bounce a shot, because it happens more often than I actually would expect it. And also notice that if the enemy manages to put a shot right in the edges of the gun mantle, they will get an unfortunate surprise with values reaching up to 500mm of effective armor on both the left side and of course on the right side. Situation is not as nice just very close to the gun mantle on the right and the left side, but again just above it will get challenging again, and it's similar scenario just below. The hull itself 160mm effective armor and 152. Nothing crazy. This tank of course has something truly nice, and that is that 10 degrees of gun depression. So let's see how that will look when we try to fully utilize that. Yeah, let's see. So there wasn't really any changes, besides we of course got this very red line up here. And this is what I mean guys, you can't really trust that this armor will work, because it is extremely flat armor guys, as you can see. It has a bit of speciality regarding also the way it's angled, so you can get some miracle bounces from time to time. But in general guys, this is a very squishy tank. The effective armor when we try to side scrape is around 76mm at the very front, and it goes down to around 50mm at the very end. So it's not bad at all, but then again at times why even try to side scrape it, especially when you have this gigantic turret. There is still one thing you can do, because notice what happens with the turret and how long time it actually stays purple. It's actually crazy, because if you manage to get the enemy to shoot at this particular part here, you can see that it is angled quite impressively. You can actually stand a chance to provoke a ricochet. And not only that guys, check this here. If we're utilizing our full 10 degrees of gun depression and we can cover big parts of the tank and keep our turret more or less mobile, you can see here all the beautiful colors. Yes, you can stand a chance, and sometimes from some games, if I'm lucky, I have 2 or 3 bounces during a game, but it doesn't happen every single game. But it's still nice, at least the option exists, because if you play the M4A1 Rev, that is extremely rare that you bounce anything. And when looking at its side profile, then the turret has 77mm, 83mm effective armor, and for the hull 158mm, and from the midsection 50mm all the way to the end. For the armor between the tracks, the Chimera features 82mm, 56mm at the end, and of course where the track meets 102mm, and finishing with 76. Still far from being able to bounce anything. And when looking at the very last part, 67, 76 and 50mm. So yeah, the Chimera, the interesting tank destroyer and medium tank hybrid. So how is it to play with? Let's try it out guys, and let's take it out for 2 battles. Okay guys, so for our very first battle, we are on Prokhorovka, and here I'm playing together with Cobalt in his Astron Rex. Bottom tier for this one. So usually for this particular map, Zero Line is definitely one of my favorite spots. The location on one line I really don't like that much, unless of course I'm playing with a light tank. Because many times if I'm not the one in light tank, I'm suddenly dependent on our light tank player. And usually then if they die before the enemy ones, then you're kinda left out there, just waiting to get destroyed by the enemy light and every single tank in the back. But nevertheless, that's not the scenario we got. Well, let's see if we can get some nice spotting. At least some nice shots from that ridgeline. I'm hoping there will be not too many tanks, as sometimes, how many are we now? 5 tanks can be can get a bit crowded from time to time. As you guys see, the spot I want to take, actually none of them have taken, but I can't get to it. Yeah, let's see. Just chilling out. Oh yeah, nice. Plus we got some spotting in there, guys. This is why the commander's vision system can be very, very nice. Simply outspot. So the camera rating of this tank is the camera rating is not extreme, but it's enough for a lot of scenarios. For the shot that just had its own life, you guys could see that at a very long range you really want to be certain to be fully aimed, or else the shots tend to fly in a completely different trajectory. Oh, this guy's poking out again. Can we put a shot? Yeah, 465 damage. So far 2 shots, 855 damage, not bad at all. Of course, a bit worried if they get spotted here, I'm going to get severely punished by the Tonwagen and what else there was that spot. There we go. Can we put in a shot? Ah! It's a bad shot by myself. Turret traverse made it a bit tough, and of course didn't help that I got smacked in the head from the T-103, which is further in the back. I wish I had the location where our Kunzepanzer is, because to be honest that location is kinda epic. This one I'm in is super fragile, and of course now I don't have any space whatsoever. Nice. And we took, wow, we took the spotting damage for that. It's a bit shame this guy is pressuring that, because usually you cannot pressure that at this current stage in the game enough for that particular part. Ooh, we can actually maybe put in a shot on this guy. There we go. And of course do notice, guys, that I took that extra time to land that shot, and even then the shot slightly traversed to the left, so it was still quite close that we wouldn't be able to make it. Can we put a shot on this? Ah, it's probably a 50-50 on that one, unfortunately not in our favor. Nevertheless, everyone is attacking like crazy here, which is good. Many times I noticed that one guy is zooming around exactly the spot I'm in, and then for no apparent reason. This one, or should I look back? Yeah, let's finish up. Ooh, Char for 2. Can we put one in? Nah. Reloading, come on. It was actually quite bad. I should have slightly moved the mouse cursor to the right. It's already 6-2. It's quite fast paced at this stage. I think this particular tank. Yeah, wow. Spot on. Spot on. That was good with some extra fire damage there. Always welcome. Now, what I was trying to say. For the Chimera itself, due to the rather slow damage per minute, you really want to have like this more chill out games, and also because of course it can get tricky playing this tank very up close and personal due to you cannot rely on the armor. But as in the sniper role, it's really strong, and it has the mobility to move around. As you guys can see, we are now reaching over 50 an hour. Using that extra time just to make certain, and of course the E75 manages to miraculously turn his turret and then get that little extra RNG. Definitely RNG. I would say like the previous shot was like, yeah, that's on me. Okay, I could have shot it before. Let's shot it before. Yeah, of course we can hit the toughest of the 3 shots. Why not? Okay, it's really about cleaning. We got 402 HP. We can take one from the list, and the rest of the tanks will more or less kill us. Especially the ISU. What can we? Yeah, we can finish this guy. Yeah, definitely now. There we go. Let's get into the ditch. Hopefully the ISU will not put a shot into us. There's the Leo. Okay, that guy. That was the Leo. And we got an ISU. Can we put a shot? No. 2400 damage, 1900 spotting. Not bad. Let's take another, guys. Okay, guys. So for the next battle here, we are on Ruinborg, and here I'm playing together with Demon Baby in his Borask. Luckily for this one, we are same tier. Yeah, definitely not going to heavy line. That's for certain. Our armor is more or less paper thin. Let's just change and see what tanks people are playing with instead of the names. Okay, we got a Pantera there. Let's. That guy would definitely look like the most extreme off-road driving there. Well, he got a spot. I guess that was the good news for him. The bad news is barely. Looking at the minimap, it's going to be a bit challenging this game because we only have the 122 TM to support us with some vision on the 0 flank. We got 2 tank destroyers. We got a T-28 there, but with that spot, that guy's going to die. There's no... Yeah. There's no way he's going to survive that. Yes, the P-44 Pantera, which is a one-shot, looked juicy. An easy kill, but no. Okay, hopefully... Well, unfortunately he learned it the hard way. So this current stage for our tank, we are quite limited regarding what we can do, because first of all we have no idea how many tanks are actually camping on the A7, A8, 9 and 0 line. And we only have 2 spotters and barely any support. So for current stage, could be lucky maybe the P-44 Pantera would poke out, but then again it doesn't really have any proper reason to do so. Let's see if some opportunities will arrive. Maybe the Lorraine will move in. A 122 TM. Oh yeah. Should have taken a few extra seconds to aim that properly, but at least we got some spotting damage. Maybe the next. Let's see, can we put some shots in? Maybe the 80. Yeah, 463. Beautiful. I'm not spotted, that means the 122 TM most likely still chilling out next to the houses. It's 2-2 with a slight HP advantage. It's kind of standing still this game because I could go push in the Pantera, but yeah, I'll be suffering the same fate as the burning tank right in front. So that's not really a bigger tactical point in getting that one. I could go and support the 122 TM, but no, we cannot win that one. We have no idea how many tanks are at 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Oh, maybe. Nah, not worth it. We'll see, but I'm seeing that our tank destroyer is moving up on the 0 line, so we might be able to apply some pressure at a certain stage. For now, it's still quite close, and luckily we still have full HP, so Terror might be poking up any second. And of course E75 TS, there we go. He might also. 405 damage, thank you. But I see the reverse speed is quite okay. Especially then if you get it supported by the turbo. E75 TS tried to shoot at us. Shoot at us. As he was reversing. But yeah, what to do? He wasn't fast enough, not lucky enough to land that shot. And how he's going to look again during at least the next 1 or 1.5 minutes. I know a lot of people are choosing to go for a gun rammer for this particular tank, but if you guys notice, for this particular game or even the previous one, at which moment would I have taken advantage of having that extra, let's say 1 second faster reload? In which scenario? And that's the thing, because there wasn't really any scenario. There wasn't really any scenario where I was gonna cost me a bit of HP on that one, but please go away that medium tank. There wasn't any scenario where I was like, oh, I'm so close to putting that extra little shell in. Like more challenges actually even hitting that tank. So at least for me, guys, if I'm going to fit a gun ram on a tank, I'm going to fit it on tanks that has really good DPM. For that simple reason that it, of course, is based on percentage based. And also one of the reasons for why, for example, I'm not fitting a gun rammer on one of the slowest or lowest DPM tanks, the 122 TM, because it's just 10% extra. It's still going to be extremely slow no matter what. And again, you see, guys, if I had a gun ram at this stage, still would not really give me any advantage. Maybe on this particular case, let's see, maybe we can even ram him to death. No. That's my comrade here helping me out. Can we take out? We had to actually use like nearly 4 seconds on that one, so even maybe triple gun rammers fitted on top of each other would have helped us out. You can see here that the Chimera is quite large in comparison to the Borovsk. In general, it's quite wide. It's not really one of the smallest tanks. Yeah. So you got some spotting and destruction. It's really all about cleaning up, guys. We got 2,300 damage and 1,000 spotting. That's the thing with the Chimera, guys. I think it is nice and enjoyable. It's not really an aggressive tank. That was a bit lucky, that shot, to be honest. 474 damage on top. It's not really an aggressive tank, but it's really like that interesting second line support tank. Really can dish out some damage, but you really want to line into those quite slow games. So 2,700 damage, 1,100 spotting nearly. Not bad, guys. Let's get back to the garage. So, the Chimera, what do I think of it, and most importantly, is it worth the grind? Well, the short answer would be why not, as this will take you further on your path to pick up not only the free 0 per crew members, but also being that vital step closer to maybe even pick up the Object 279 reward tank. And in addition, with the Chimera, then this tank will force most people to expand their tank garage, as the second campaign missions are quite different in comparison to the first first campaign mission. The grind, or rather journey, will definitely be long for the majority of players, unless you are born super unicorn from the get-go. And this grind has definitely made me put the missions on hold for several months, when my personal frustration just got too much, as it very often tends to in World of Tanks, especially for those missions which both requires a specific map, specific tanks of both you and your teammates, and sometimes even a specific tier of opponents. In short, what I personally wanted from this extreme grind was something unique, and this Chimera, in my opinion, has that uniqueness, because the 440 alpha damage gun might not sound like an extreme or even super unique, but mounting this gun on a medium tank makes it surprisingly enjoyable. Yes, this tank is not easy to play well with, and yes, it shouldn't be, but if you already picked up the Chimera, then the chances are quite good that you will be able to utilize and play the Chimera properly. In my opinion, the Chimera is a tank you consistently can get okay battles with, but there can be a bit in between those super games, due to you might often be forced to play in a support role due to your unreliable armor, not extreme mobility, and of course the biggest opponent of all, the matchmaker. But nevertheless, despite its challenges, the Chimera has become one of my to-go tanks whenever I just wanna chill out in the mid to long range combat and keep getting amazed that its gun at times is capable of punishing enemy tanks for more than 500 damage in a single shot. So how many facepalms would I give this tier 8 British Chimera medium reward tank? Well, it receives 4 facepalms. The thing is that there are several tanks today that are capable of dealing 440 or more alpha damage, but for a semi-mobile medium tank together with its extreme gun depression of 10 degrees, then it is just so much easier to land those shots, as you have the flexibility to fight the tanks on the flanks of your choice, in comparison to, for example, playing with heavies. The deciding factor for not giving it 5 is due to its more chill out play style. So if it had better DPM or more horsepower per ton, or even somewhat reliable turret armor, then it would stand a proper chance of getting a 5 out of 5. But at this current stage, there is no way. What also is important to mention is that I honestly do not think that this tank should be buffed or changed, because it is a very enjoyable and definitely a tank that is capable of having some epic battles from time to time. And to just give one example, guys, my most XP rewarding game for 2021 was actually in the Chimera, where I had the chance of going hull down throughout the whole game and just punishing the enemy with 440 alpha damage shot after shot. So yes, those epic games definitely exist, but there are not so many of them. And when we look for the more competitive skirmish battles, then I do not see the Chimera as a viable choice unless you are playing very defensively or slow paced. But even then there are better alternatives out there. But for random games, then this interesting merge between a medium tank and a hard hitting tank destroyer from mid to long range just seems extremely satisfying, because any trade of shots, well, at least most of them, will more likely than not result you in sitting back with a big grin on your face. The thing I like about the Chimera is that despite the gun handling really being nothing special, that this tank still, due to its rather slow paced turret traverse speed, then it doesn't force the gun bloom to expand more than necessary. This ironic combination just seems to synchronize so well with its playstyle, its gun depression, and that epic alpha damage. So the Chimera, finally a British tier 8 medium tank that is worth playing. Okay guys, let's finish up. I hope that this tank review was helpful towards your decision on whether you should focus your grind towards picking up the Chimera next time you have the chance. And of course, thanks a lot for watching, guys. This was my tank review number 47. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know what you think of the British Chimera reward medium tank in the comments below. And as always, if you like to see more crazy content from my side, feel free to leave a like or even subscribe. It's a big thumbs up for me and I appreciate it a lot. Cheers guys, take care, and see you guys next time.